Day One stood in the observation deck of the Coalition flagship watching the stars. His reflection stared back at him from the transparent steel. Dark circles under his eyes. A scar running down his left cheek. Hair cut short for efficiency. He looked tired. He was tired. Behind him, the door opened. He didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Yuri always walked with a slight drag of his left foot, a reminder of the battle on Station Kepler 7. "You should be sleeping," Yuri said, coming to stand beside him. "Can't," Day One replied simply. "Nightmares again?" Day One didn't answer. That was answer enough. They stood in silence for a while. This was what friendship looked like after 17 battles. Few words. Comfortable silence. Understanding without explanation. "Commander Krev wants to see you," Yuri finally said. "Tomorrow morning." "Strategy meeting," Day One nodded. "Another battle coming. Always another battle. They're calling it the final push," Yuri continued. "The Resh Collective is gathering everything they have. If we win this one, the war might actually end. And if we lose, we won't. You'll make sure of that." Day One looked at his friend. Yuri believed it completely. They all did. The humans, the aliens, everyone in the fleet. Day One had never lost a battle. 32 years old and he was already a legend. The alien species told stories about him. The Altherian warriors who had fought wars for 3,000 years called him the one who does not break. But Day One felt broken. He just hit it well. The next morning, Day One walked through the corridors of the flagship. Crew members stepped aside for him. Some saluted. Others just stared. He wore his combat armor even off duty now. It felt safer than his own skin. The strategy room was filled with officers. Commander Krev stood at the center, his forearms manipulating the holographic display. The Altherian's insect-like face turned toward Day One. "Combat Specialist Day One." "Good. We can begin." The hologram showed the sector of space where the Resh Collective was gathering. Red dots, hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. "Intelligence suggests this is everything they have left," Krev explained. "Their entire fleet. Every combat unit. Every drone. If they're committing this much, they're planning to end the war. One way or another." "When?" asked Captain Vel, a reptilian Suresh commander. 3 days. Maybe 4. Our forces? Sufficient. If we use them correctly. Krev's multiple eyes focused on Day One, which is why we need our best warrior leading the boarding teams. Of course. Day One was always leading the boarding teams. When battles got close, when ships connected, when fighting moved to corridors and rooms. That's when they needed him. "The Resh fight like machines," Krev continued, "because they are machines. They don't fear death. They don't retreat. They calculate and execute. But you, Day One, you're unpredictable. You adapt. That's why you always win." Day One stared at the hologram, at all those red dots. Each one represented a ship. Each ship contained Resh units. Each unit he would probably have to fight. How many had he killed? He'd stopped counting after the first 1,000. "I'll need 200 soldiers," Day One said quietly. "Mixed species. Humans for adaptability, Altherians for strength, Suresh for precision. Done. And I want full tactical control once we're aboard enemy ships. No interference from fleet command." Krev's mandibles clicked, a sign of approval. "Also done." "Anything else?" "Yes, when this is over, I'm requesting leave. Real leave. Not 2 days. A month at least." The room went quiet. Day One had never requested leave before. "Of course," Krev said finally. "Win this battle and you can have 2 months, 3, whatever you need." After the meeting, Day One returned to his quarters. The room was small, military, a bed, a desk, a locker. Nothing personal. No photos, no decorations. He'd learned not to keep personal things. They just made the nightmares worse. He sat on the bed and began the ritual of checking his armor. Every piece. Every seal. Every weapon system. His hands moved automatically. He'd done this so many times. His communicator buzzed. A message. He almost ignored it, but something made him look. It was from Hana. He stared at her name for a long moment. They hadn't spoken in 3 years. Not since she left the military. Not since she told him she couldn't watch him become a killer anymore. The message was simple. "I'm coming to the flagship. Diplomatic mission. We need to talk." Day One's hand stopped moving. "Hana." After all this time. He remembered her smile, her laugh. The way she used to look at him before the war changed everything. Before he became this thing he was now, he didn't reply to the message. What would he say? The next 2 days passed in preparation. Day-Wan trained with his teams. They ran simulations, practiced boarding procedures, reviewed Resh combat data. Every soldier under his command knew their job perfectly. Day-Wan made sure of that. On the 3rd day, a diplomatic shuttle arrived. Day-Wan was in the training bay when he heard. He continued his exercises, pretending he didn't care, but his heart was beating faster. That evening, he was walking to the mess hall when he saw her. Hana stood in the corridor, talking to another diplomat. She wore civilian clothes, professional, clean, so different from the combat gear everyone else wore. Her hair was longer now. She looked peaceful. She looked like everything he wasn't. Their eyes met across the corridor. For a moment, neither moved. 3 years collapsed into 3 seconds. All the memories, all the feelings. Then Hana smiled, small, sad, and walked toward him. Day-Wan. Hana, you look. She paused, searching for words. Different. So do you. An awkward silence fell between them. So much to say. Too much to say. I heard you're leading the assault teams again, Hana said. It's my job. It's always your job. There was no anger in her voice. Just sadness. That was worse somehow. I'm here to negotiate with a Resh splinter group, Hana explained. Some of them want peace. They're willing to talk. Machines don't want peace. They calculate efficiency. Maybe. Or maybe they've learned that war isn't efficient. She looked at him carefully. Maybe we all need to learn that. Day-Wan felt defensive walls going up. The same walls that had ended their relationship. I should go, he said. Day-Wan, wait, please, can we talk? Really talk? After the negotiations tomorrow? He wanted to say no. Wanted to walk away. But he found himself nodding. Okay. Tomorrow. That night, Day-Wan couldn't sleep at all. He lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Hana, thinking about the man he used to be. The man she used to love, that man was gone. Buried under 17 battles, under all the blood and fire and death. Tomorrow he would see her again. Tomorrow everything would change. He just didn't know how much. The negotiations started at dawn. Day-Wan wasn't part of them, but he heard the reports. Hana and her diplomatic team met with 3 Resh representatives in a secure conference room. The machines offered data, calculations, probability matrices, showing that continued war would result in mutual destruction. Hana offered hope. The possibility of coexistence. A future where both sides could survive. Day-Wan spent the morning in the armory, preparing weapons. His team gathered around him, checking equipment. They were quiet, professional. They'd fought beside him enough times to sense his mood. Boss seems tense, whispered Private Bora to Corporal Hyunwoo. He's always tense before a fight, Hyunwoo replied. This is different. She was right. But Hyunwoo didn't say so. At noon, alarms screamed through the ship. All hands to battle. Stations, we are under attack. Resh forces incoming. Day-Wan was moving before the announcement finished. His team followed. They drilled this 1,000 times. Every movement automatic. Every action precise. The command deck was chaos. Krev stood at the center, his forearms working multiple controls simultaneously. Report, the Altherian commander barked. Resh fleet just dropped out of hyperspace, an officer responded. They came early, came fast. The negotiations were a trap. Day-Wan felt something cold settle in his stomach. A trap. They'd used Hana's peace talks as a distraction. Where's the diplomatic team? He demanded. Still in the conference room, Krev said. We're trying to evacuate them, but... An explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered. They've breached the hull, someone shouted. Multiple entry points. Resh boarding parties coming through. Section G7, another voice called out. That's near the conference rooms. Day-Wan didn't wait for orders. He ran. His team followed without question. Through corridors, down emergency ladders, toward the sound of weapons fire. The ship shook with impacts. Emergency lights painted everything red. They reached Section G7 in 3 minutes. The corridor was a war zone. Resh combat units, skeletal machines of black metal and glowing blue cores, fought against ship security. Bodies lay on the floor. Human, Altherian, Saresh, blood mixed with machine oil, Day One raised his weapon and fired. His first shot took out a Resh unit's optical sensor. His second destroyed its central processor. The machine collapsed. He was already moving to the next target. His team spread out, created crossfire, used cover. Day One had trained them well. In 90 seconds, they'd cleared the corridor. Push forward, Day One ordered. Find the diplomats. They moved through smoke and sparks. More Resh units appeared. Day One fought like the machine the aliens called him. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Every action calculated for maximum efficiency. Point weapon, fire, kill, move, repeat. He was good at killing, the best maybe, and he hated himself for it. They found the conference room. The door was breached. Inside, 2 Resh units stood over bodies. Diplomats, human and alien, not moving. Day One saw red, not anger, colder than that. The combat mode his mind entered when emotions became dangerous. He moved forward. His team provided covering fire. He closed the distance, used his rifle as a club, smashed the first Resh unit's core, drew his combat knife, drove it through the second unit's processor housing. Both machines fell. Day One searched the bodies. 5 diplomats dead, 3 injured. And there in the corner, Hana. She was alive, bleeding from a head wound but conscious. Day One, she whispered. I've got you. Don't move. He called for medical. Yuri arrived within minutes. More medics followed. They stabilized the injured, prepared to evacuate. But the battle wasn't over. We need to hold this position, Day One told his team. More Resh units are coming. We protect the wounded until transport arrives. For the next hour they fought, wave after wave of Resh units. The machines came without fear, without mercy, calculating, efficient, perfect killers, but Day One was better. He adapted to their patterns, found weaknesses. When they came from the left, he was ready. When they tried to flank, he countered. When they tried to overwhelm with numbers, he created choke points. His team fought beside him. Bora took shrapnel to her shoulder but kept firing. Hyunwoo's rifle overheated, and he switched to his sidearm without missing a beat. Others fell, but those who could still fight kept fighting. Day One moved through the battle like death itself, precise, unstoppable, every shot a kill, every movement purposeful. He wasn't thinking anymore, just executing, like a machine destroying machines. Finally, reinforcements arrived. The Resh boarding parties were driven back. The wounded were evacuated. The battle moved to other sections of the ship. Day One stood in the destroyed corridor, surrounded by broken machines and dead comrades. His armor was scorched, his weapons empty, his hands shaking from adrenaline. Yuri approached him carefully. Medical bay now, you need to be checked. I'm fine. That's an order from your doctor. Day One let himself be led away. In the medical bay, Yuri cleaned minor wounds, checked for concussion, declared him physically fit. Hana? Day One asked. Stable. She'll recover. She's asking for you. Day One found her in a private room. She lay on a medical bed, bandage around her head, but her eyes were clear. You saved me, she said. It's my job. Is that all it was? Day One didn't answer. I watched the security footage, Hana continued. After they brought me here, I wanted to see what happened. I watched you fight. Don't. I watched you kill 27 Resh units in less than 10 minutes. 27? Do you know how many? That is, can you even comprehend? I know exactly how many, Day One interrupted quietly. I counted. Hana stared at him. Something in her expression changed. Horror. Realization. You counted. Of course you counted. You always count. How many is it now, Day One? How many have you killed? Total? I don't want to talk about this. 3,000? 4? More? Stop. I watched you, Day One. I watched what you've become. Her voice rose. You moved like you weren't even human, like you were just another machine. Point and shoot, kill and move, no emotion, No hesitation. Just execution. That's what war is. No. Hana sat up, ignoring the pain. That's what you've made yourself into. You've become the monster they needed. Not the man I knew, not the man I loved. The words hit harder than any Resh weapon. You don't understand, Daewon said. Out there, hesitation means death. Emotion means mistakes. I have to be a machine? Is that what you're going to say? You have to be a machine? Tears ran down Hana's face. Look at yourself. Listen to yourself. You're talking about killing. Like it's breathing, like it's normal. In war, it is normal. Not for humans. We're supposed to be better than this. We're supposed to feel, to care, to be affected when we take a life. I do feel, Daewon said quietly. Every single one. That's why I have to shut it off. If I felt everything, I couldn't function. Then maybe you shouldn't function. Maybe you should stop. Maybe you should refuse. People would die. People are already dying. You're dying. The man you were is dead, and you killed him. What do you want from me? Daewon's voice rose. To just stop fighting? To let the Resh win? To watch everyone die because I'm too scared to do what needs to be done? I want you to be human again. I want you to remember that killing should hurt, that death should matter, that you're not a weapon. They just point and fire. But that's exactly what I am. The words fell like stones. Hana looked at him, really looked at him, and Daewon saw the moment her heart broke. The man I loved would have been horrified by what you just said, she whispered. He would have been disgusted by what you've become. And the worst part? You don't even see it. You think this is strength. You think this is noble. But you're not protecting humanity, Daewon. You're proving every species right who called us savage, who said we were too dangerous, too violent. That's not fair, isn't it? Look at yourself. When was the last time you smiled, laughed, felt anything other than the mission? You're not even alive anymore. You're just functioning. Daewon had no answer, because she was right, and he knew it. Daewon left the medical bay without another word. Hana's voice followed him down the corridor, but he didn't turn back. He walked until he reached the armory. His sanctuary. His prison. He stood before his locker. His armor hung inside, scorched and dented from the battle. Battle damage. War wounds. Proof of survival or proof of what he'd become. Daewon touched the chest plate. Cold metal. Unyielding. Like him. Yuri found him there an hour later, still standing. Still staring. Talk to me, Yuri said. She called me a monster. She's hurt. Angry. She almost died. She's right. Yuri was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? Daewon didn't answer. He didn't know. The next morning, Commander Krev called an assembly. The entire command staff gathered, officers, squad leaders, department heads. Daewon stood in the back, still wearing his armor from yesterday. He hadn't taken it off. Hadn't slept. The Resh attack was repelled, Krev announced. We lost 57 crew members. 112 wounded. But we held. Thanks to our combat teams, especially combat specialist Daewon and his unit. Polite applause. Daewon felt nothing. However, Krev continued, the Resh main fleet is still approaching. They'll be here in 30 hours. This battle was just a probe, a test. The real fight is coming. The room tensed. Everyone knew what that meant. We're ready, someone said. Are we? Daewon's voice cut through the room. He hadn't meant to speak. But the words came anyway. Everyone turned to look at him. Combat specialist? Krev's mandibles clicked in confusion. Daewon stepped forward, out of the shadows, into the light. Are we ready? To do this again? To send more people to die? To kill more machines? For what? To win the war, Krev said carefully. And then what? Another war? Another enemy? Another reason to fight? Daewon, Yuri warned quietly. Not now, but Daewon couldn't stop. Something was breaking inside him, or maybe fixing itself. He couldn't tell the difference anymore. I fought 17 battles, Daewon said. Killed thousands. Saved thousands more. And I don't remember the last time I felt like a person instead of a weapon. The room was dead silent. We're at war, Captain Vell said. We don't have the luxury of feelings. That's exactly the problem, Day One replied. We've made war so efficient that we've forgotten what it costs, what it takes from us. He began removing his armor, started with his helmet, set it on the floor. Then his shoulder guards, his chest plate, each piece falling like the weight it was. What are you doing? Krev demanded. What I should have done a long time ago. Day One removed his gauntlets, his leg armor, piece by piece, until he stood in just his combat suit, exposed, vulnerable, human. You're our best warrior, Krev said. We need you. No, you need a weapon. And I'm done being one. This is desertion. This is survival mine. Day One looked around the room, at all the faces, some shocked, some angry, some understanding. I'm done. Find someone else to be your killer. He walked toward the door. If you leave now, we might lose. Krev called after him. People will die. Day One stopped, turned. People are already dying. They've been dying for years, and if my being here is the only thing stopping it, then we've already lost. Because the moment this war ends, there'll be another, and another, and I'll be here killing until there's nothing left of me that's worth saving. So you'll just run? Captain Vel's voice dripped with disgust. We thought humans were brave. Bravery isn't just fighting. Sometimes it takes more courage to stop. Day One looked at the Serache captain. I'm not running from the enemy. I'm running from what the war made me. Before there's nothing left to save. He left the room. Behind him, chaos erupted. Voices arguing. Some defending him. Others condemning. He heard Yuri's voice rise above the others, but he didn't stay to listen. Day One went to his quarters. Packed a small bag. A few clothes. Some credits. Nothing else. He'd lived without personal possessions for so long that leaving was easy. Yuri caught him at the shuttle bay. Don't do this, his friend said. I have to. Where will you go? I don't know. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere far from war. You'll regret this. Maybe. But I'll regret staying more. Day One put a hand on Yuri's shoulder. Thank you. For everything. For being my friend when I forgot how to be one. You're still my friend. Then be happy for me. I'm choosing to live instead of just survive. Yuri's eyes were wet. The fleet. We won't be the same without you. You'll be fine. You're strong. All of you. You don't need me. But we want you, I know. That's why I have to go. Before I become the only thing you see when you think of humanity. The killer. The weapon. The monster. They hugged. Brief. Tight. Then Day One pulled away and boarded a civilian transport shuttle. The pilot was a merchant heading to the frontier colonies. He didn't ask questions. Just took Day One's credits and promised to drop him at Haven's Edge. As the shuttle departed, Day One watched the flagship shrink in the viewport. That massive warship had been his home for years. His purpose. His identity. Now it was just a distant light. The journey took 3 days. Day One spent them sleeping. Really sleeping. For the first time in months, no nightmares, no alarms. Just darkness and rest. He woke feeling different. Lighter somehow. The weight of armor gone. The weight of responsibility gone. Just himself. Just Day One. Not combat specialist. Not the warrior. Not the legend. Just a man who was tired of war. Haven's Edge appeared in the viewport. A small planet. Green and blue. Peaceful. The colony was agricultural. Farms and small towns. No military bases. No weapon factories. Just people trying to live simple lives far from the chaos of the galaxy. Perfect. The shuttle landed at a small spaceport. More of a landing pad, really. A few buildings. Some cargo containers. A handful of people moving about their business. Day One stepped off the shuttle and breathed deep. Clean air, soil, growing things. The smell of life instead of death. A man approached. Middle-aged, kind face. New arrival? I'm Taman. Colony administrator. Day One. Looking for work? We can always use extra hands on the farms. Yes, work sounds good. Taman studied him. You're military. I can tell. Was military. Not anymore. Running from something? Running to something, Day One corrected. I hope. Taman smiled. Well, you're welcome here. We don't ask questions about people's pasts. Everyone deserves a fresh start. Come on. I'll show you around. They walked through the small settlement. Houses built from local materials. Gardens bursting with vegetables. Children playing in the streets. It was so normal. So peaceful. so unlike everything Daewon had known for years. We had some trouble with raiders a few years back, Taemin explained, but since then nothing. It's quiet out here. Boring, some say, but boring is good when you've seen too much excitement. Boring sounds perfect. They reached a small house on the edge of the settlement. This one's empty. Previous tenant moved to a bigger colony. It's yours if you want it. We'll work out rent once you start earning. Daewon looked at the house. Simple, small, just 4 walls and a roof. A place to sleep, a place to heal. I'll take it. That night, Daewon lay in a real bed for the first time in years. No armor, no weapons, no mission briefings waiting in the morning. Just silence and darkness and peace. He thought about the fleet, about the battle coming, about all the people who would fight and die. Part of him felt guilty for leaving. Part of him felt like a coward, but a bigger part felt free. Tomorrow he would start over, learn to farm, learn to live without violence, learn to be human again, if that was even possible. Outside his window, stars shone in the night sky. Somewhere up there, a war was being fought. Ships were fighting. People were dying. But here, on this small planet in the middle of nowhere, there was only peace. Daewon closed his eyes and slept without nightmares for the first time in years. Daewon woke to sunlight, real sunlight, not the artificial lighting of a warship. For a moment, he forgot where he was. His hand reached for a weapon that wasn't there. His body tensed for an alarm that didn't sound. Then he remembered. Haven's Edge, the colony, peace. He sat up slowly. His body ached, but not from wounds. From sleeping properly, from relaxing muscles that had been tight for years. Outside, he could hear voices. Children laughing, someone calling about breakfast. Normal sounds, living sounds. Daewon dressed in the simple clothes he'd bought from the colony supply store. No armor, no combat suit, just pants and a shirt. He felt naked, vulnerable, but also lighter. Taemin found him an hour later standing outside the house just watching the colony wake up. First day jitters? The administrator asked. Something like that. Come on, I'll introduce you to Sang-ho. He runs the biggest farm. Always needs workers. They walked through the settlement. People nodded greetings. Some stared. Strangers were rare here, but no one seemed hostile. Just curious. Sang-ho was a large man with sun-dark skin and strong hands. He looked Daewon up and down. You know anything about farming? He asked. No. Can you follow instructions? Yes. Can you work hard without complaining? Yes, Sang-ho grunted. Good enough. Pay is fair. Work starts at dawn, ends at dusk. You get 1 day off per week, deal? Deal. And just like that, Daewon had a new life. The work was hard, physical, different from combat but demanding in its own way. Daewon learned to plant seeds, to water crops, to harvest vegetables. His hands, so skilled at killing, learned gentler tasks. He made mistakes. Many mistakes. Planted things wrong, watered too much or too little. But Sang-ho was patient. Showed him again, explained simply. Farming is about patience, the big man said. You can't rush growth. You plant. You care for it, you wait. Then you harvest. Simple, simple. Daewon liked simple. Days passed. Then weeks. Daewon fell into a routine. Wake with the sun. Work the fields. Eat simple meals. Sleep deeply. No battles, no death, no counting kills. Just life. One morning, a small girl appeared at the edge of the field where Daewon was working. She was maybe 8 years old. Dirty dress, messy hair, big eyes watching him. Hi, she said. Hello. You're new. Yes. What's your name? Daewon. What's yours? Jiwoo. She came closer. Are you a soldier? You move like a soldier. Daewon's hands paused in their work. I was, not anymore. Why not? I got tired of fighting. My parents were soldiers, Jiwoo said matter-of-factly. Raiders killed them 2 years ago. Now I live with Taemin. I'm sorry, she shrugged. Small shoulders carrying big weight. It's okay. Taemin is nice. He lets me help in the gardens. Daewon didn't know what to say. This child had lost everything but seemed okay. Not broken, just different. Do you want to help here? He asked. I'm still learning. Maybe we can learn together. Jiwoo's face lit up. Really? Really? But you have to listen to Sang-ho. He's the boss. From that day, Jiwoo came every morning. She helped where she could. Mostly she talked. About everything. About nothing. About her parents. About the colony. About her dreams. Day one found himself looking forward to her arrival. Her chatter filled the silence in his head. Her presence reminded him that life continued. That innocent thing still existed. One day while they were harvesting, Jiwoo asked, "Did you kill people when you were a soldier?" T1's hand stopped. "Yes, a lot. Yes. Does it hurt to remember?" He looked at this small girl, so young, already knowing about death, about loss, about hard truths. "Yes," he said honestly. "It hurts. Is that why you stopped?" "Part of it. Someone told me I was becoming something bad, a monster. And they were right." Jiwoo tilted her head. "You don't seem like a monster. Not anymore. I'm trying not to be. My mom used to say that people aren't good or bad. They're just people. They make choices. Good choices or bad choices. But they can always choose different. Your mom was smart. Yeah, I miss her." Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. Then, "But I'm glad you chose to stop being a monster. Because now you're here, teaching me about plants." Something in Day One's chest loosened. A knot he didn't know was there. "Me too." The weeks became months. Day One's hands grew calloused from farm work. His skin tanned from the sun. His nightmares came less often. He still dreamed of battles sometimes. Still woke with his heart racing. But not every night. Not anymore. He ate meals with other colonists. Learned their names. Their stories. Most were running from something. War, debt, failed relationships. This was a planet of second chances. Taemin invited him to dinner one evening. Just the two of them and Jiwoo. They ate simple food and talked about simple things. "You seem better," Taemin observed. "Less haunted. I feel better. Most days. Do you regret leaving the military?" Day One thought about it. "I regret that they needed someone like me in the first place. But no, I don't regret leaving. It's good. Because you're good for this place. For Jiwoo especially. She talks about you constantly. She's a good kid. She is. And she needs good people around her. People who understand loss but haven't let it destroy them." After dinner, Day One walked Jiwoo home. The settlement was dark except for soft lights in windows, peaceful, safe. "Day One?" Jiwoo's small voice broke the silence. "Yes? Why did you really stop fighting?" He'd told her before. But children asked questions until they got the answer they needed. Not the answer they were given. "Because someone made me realize I'd forgotten what I was fighting for," he said. "I was so focused on winning that I lost sight of why winning mattered." "What were you fighting for?" "This, places like this, people like you, safe homes, peaceful nights, the chance to grow things instead of destroy them." Jiwoo was quiet for a few steps. "Then you didn't really stop fighting. You just found a better way." Day One stopped walking, looked down at this small, wise child. "What do you mean?" "Fighting isn't just wars and weapons. It's protecting things, building things. My mom said the best warriors are the ones who know when to use weapons and when to use words, or when to use neither. When to just be peaceful. Your mom really was smart. She would have liked you. The new you, not the soldier you, the person you." They reached Taemin's house. Jiwoo hugged Day One quickly, then ran inside. Day One walked back to his own small house, thinking. The person you, not the soldier. The person. When had he stopped being a person and become only a soldier? He couldn't remember exactly. It happened slowly, battle by battle, death by death, until the armor became his skin and the mission became his identity. But here, on this quiet planet, he was finding himself again. The man who existed before the war. Or maybe a new version. Someone who knew darkness but chose light. That night, news came through the colony network. The war had ended. The coalition and the Resh had signed a ceasefire. Negotiations were ongoing. Peace was possible. Day One sat on his porch looking at the stars, thinking about Hana, about Yuri, about Commander Krev. They'd won without him. Or maybe they'd won because he left, because his leaving forced them to find another way. He hoped Hana was happy, that she'd succeeded in her peace talks, that his harsh exit had somehow helped. Jiwoo appeared at his door the next morning, excited. "Did you hear? The war is over. I heard. Does that mean you were right? To stop fighting? I don't know, maybe we both won. Them with their war. Me with my peace. Will you go back?" The question surprised him. "No, this is my home now. Jiwoo smiled. Good. Because Sang-ho says you're finally getting good at farming. It would be sad if you left just when you learned something. Daewon laughed. Actually laughed. The sound felt strange, unfamiliar, but good. Come on, he said. We have work to do. They walked to the fields together. The sun was rising. The soil was waiting. Life continued, and Daewon was finally part of it again. 3 months after the war ended, the alarms came to Haven's Edge. Daewon was in the fields with Jiwoo when the sirens started. His body reacted before his mind caught up. Muscles tensed. Heart rate increased. Combat readiness flooding his system. What is that? Jiwoo asked, scared. Daewon looked up. In the sky, ships were descending. Not coalition vessels. The design was wrong. These were rest ships. Run to Taemin, Daewon said calmly. Tell him to start evacuation protocols. What about you? I'll be right behind you. Go now. Jiwoo ran. Daewon stayed, watching the ships land. His farming tools suddenly felt useless. His hands remembered the weight of weapons. His mind calculated attack patterns, defensive positions, escape routes. No, he wasn't that person anymore. But people here needed protection. The conflict warred inside him as he ran toward the settlement. Colonists were panicking, children crying, adults shouting questions no one could answer. Taemin stood in the center trying to organize. Everyone to the shelters. Move, what's happening? Daewon demanded. Resh Splinter Group. They didn't accept the peace. Intelligence said they were destroyed, but Taemin's face was pale. They're here for resources, food, supplies. They'll take everything. And the people? If we're lucky, they'll just take what they need and leave. And if we're not lucky? Taemin didn't answer. He didn't need to. Daewon looked around. At the small settlement. At the people he'd lived with. Worked with. Learned to care about. At Jiwoo being herded toward the shelters with other children. He'd walked away from war. From violence. From being a weapon. But these people had no weapons. No soldiers. No way to defend themselves. How long until coalition forces can get here? Daewon asked. 3 hours. Maybe 4. The Resh would be done in 1. Daewon closed his eyes. Took a breath. Made a choice. I need 3 things, he said. Hunting rifles. Any weapons the colonists have. And someone to help me organize. Taemin stared. You said you were done fighting. I am. But I'm not done protecting. Daewon met the administrator's eyes. There's a difference.
One I forgot.
One I'm remembering now. 10 minutes later, Daewon stood with 15 colonists. Farmers, merchants, teachers, people who'd never fought before. They held hunting rifles, makeshift weapons. Fear in their eyes. Listen carefully, Daewon said. We're not going to fight them. We're going to slow them down. Buy time for evacuation. How? Asked Sang-ho, holding a rifle like it might bite him. We make them think we're stronger than we are. We use terrain, surprise, make every shot count. Make every position matter. Daewon pointed to different locations. 3 teams. Here, here, and here. Don't stay in one place. Fire and move. The goal isn't to win. It's to survive until help arrives. You're asking us to be soldiers, someone said. No, I'm asking you to be brave. For your families. For your homes. Soldiers fight to destroy. We're fighting to preserve. They moved into position. Daewon placed them carefully. Not for maximum damage. For maximum survival. Cover. Escape routes. Sight lines that gave advantage. The Resh units came an hour later. 20 machines. Combat models. Efficient killers, but they expected no resistance. A soft target. Easy resources. The first shot came from Sang-ho's position. It missed, but it warned the others. Daewon fired next. His shot didn't miss. 1 Resh unit dropped. Optical sensors destroyed. The machines adapted instantly. Spread out. Took cover. Advanced tactically, but Daewon had prepared for that. He'd learned these machines. Their patterns. Their calculations. He knew how they thought because he'd thought like them. Team 2, fall back to secondary position, he called. Team 3, covering fire. It wasn't elegant. The colonists weren't trained. Shots went wide. People forgot instructions. Panic threatened to break the line, but Daewon held them together. His voice calm. His orders clear. He moved between positions, helping, guiding, protecting. A Resh unit got close to Sang-ho. Daewon intercepted. No weapon, just his hands. Just his knowledge of their weaknesses. He struck at joint connections. Processor housing. The machine fell, but doing so exposed him. Another unit aimed. Day 1. Sang Ho's shot took the unit down. Not a clean kill, but enough. They fought for 90 minutes, lost 3 colonists, wounded 5 more. But they held. The Resh couldn't advance, couldn't complete their mission, and then salvation. Coalition ships dropped out of hyperspace. Fighters screamed down. The Resh units calculated their losses and retreated. It was over. Day 1 collapsed against a wall, breathing hard. Not from physical exertion, from the cost of becoming what he'd sworn not to be, but it felt different. The killing, the violence, it wasn't cold, wasn't mechanical. He'd felt every moment, every shot, every life at stake. He'd fought like a person defending a home, not like a weapon destroying an enemy. Yuri found him an hour later. His friend had come with the relief force. Heard you were here, Yuri said. Didn't believe it. Thought you were done fighting. I was. I am. Daewon stood. But I'm not done protecting. Is there a difference? Yes, one I finally understand. They walked through the settlement. Medics treating wounded. Engineers assessing damage. It would recover. It would rebuild. Hana's here too, Yuri said. She was leading the diplomatic team that secured the ceasefire with the main Resh forces. She heard about the attack. Wanted to come. Daewon's heart jumped. Here now? In the command ship. She's asking to see you. They took a shuttle up. The coalition command ship was smaller than the flagship. A diplomatic vessel, less weapons, more communication equipment. Hana waited in a conference room. She looked tired, older somehow, but alive. Whole. Daewon. Hana. Yuri left them alone. Silence stretched. 3 months of separation. A war ended. A life changed. I heard what you did, Hana finally said. Defending the colony. Organizing the resistance. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. That's what I learned. She stepped closer. I was wrong. About some things. Not everything. But some things. You were right about most of it. I had become a monster. No. You'd become lost. There's a difference. Hana's eyes were wet. I watched the combat footage from the defense. You fought differently. Not like before. You hesitated. You protected. You fought to preserve, not destroy. I remembered what I was fighting for. Someone reminded me. He smiled slightly. A small girl. Very wise for her age. I'm glad. The galaxy needs warriors who remember their humanity. Who fight because they care, not because they're efficient. Is that why you're here? To tell me I did good? No, I'm here to ask you something. Hana took a breath. The coalition is creating a new division. Defense and protection for frontier colonies. Not offensive forces. Not war makers, protectors, people who understand both the cost of violence and the value of peace. You want me to join? I want you to lead it. With me, military and diplomatic together. Force and negotiation. The warrior who learned to care and the diplomat who learned when force is necessary. Daewon looked out the window. At Haven's Edge below, his home. His peace. I can't leave here. These people need stability. Jiwoo needs, bring her with you. The position is based here. On Haven's Edge. This becomes the training center. The model. You'd protect this place and help others build places like it. He stared at her. You've thought about this. For 3 months. Since you walked away. Since I realized that my words broke something important but also fixed something more important. You needed to break to become whole again. And if I say yes, if I put on armor again, then you put it on knowing what it means. What it costs. Not as a weapon. As a protector. There's a difference. You've learned it. Now teach others. Daewon thought about it. About Jiwoo. About the colonists who'd fought beside him. About the peace he'd found and the purpose he'd lost. I want Jiwoo to have a voice in this. And Taemin. And the colonists. This affects them too. Of course, they gathered that evening. In the settlement center. Daewon explained the proposal. The colonists listened. Asked questions, debated. Jiwoo stood, small but fierce. Daewon taught me about growing things. About patience. About being peaceful. But today he also showed me that sometimes you have to protect what you've grown. I think he should do both. Teach people to build, teach people to protect. Be both, Taemin nodded. The child speaks wisdom. Having a protection force here. Trained in Daewon's new way, it could help all frontier colonies. We vote yes. The colonists agreed. Unanimously. Daewon looked at Hana. at his friend who'd broken him with harsh words and was now offering to rebuild him into something better. Okay, but on one condition. What? No more lying to myself about what I am. I'm a warrior, but I'm also a farmer, a teacher, a friend, a person. The armor doesn't define me. It's just a tool, and tools are only as good or evil as those who wield them. Hana smiled. Really smiled. Deal. 6 months later, Haven's Edge had changed. New facilities, training grounds, classrooms, but also more farms, more homes, more life. Day one wore his armor again, but differently. He trained soldiers in the morning, worked the fields in the afternoon, taught Jiwoo in the evening. His new trainees learned combat, but also farming, diplomacy, peace building. They learned when to fight and when to talk, when to draw weapons and when to lay them down. The warrior who learned to be human, the human who learned to be a warrior again. Both, together, balanced. One evening, as the sun set over the fields, Jiwoo sat with him on the porch.